What is up, YouTube? Doing my handmade videos today. This is a kukri, handmade in Nepal. This one is a Himalayan imports, Chiruwa Ang Khola. That's Chiruwa, which means full tang. And Ang Khola, which I thought meant a fuller or a blood groove in the back, but mine has two fullers in the front. Get it out of the sheath here. Set the camera down, do this safely. When getting a kukri out of its sheath, you want to hold the sheath safely on the back side here, away from the blade. The kukri sheath is made with wood, surrounded by buffalo leather, and fully stitched. So it is a very safe sheath, but with a brute like this, if you see my thumb behind that blade there, yeah, you want safety. So this is a 1/2 inch thick, handmade, hammer forged chopping monster, handmade in Nepal. This is not the villager finish, this is the high mirror polish finish. Probably not a safe way to put it on that log there. Just give up on that. This thing fall on your foot, you might lose half your foot. Just a wicked knife. The handle, when I received it, had shrunk some. They come from the high mountains and the Himalayas, near Everest, and 5 or 6 of the other highest mountains in the world are all right there. And the humidity when they go to the desert in Reno, Nevada, where Himalayan imports brings them, the wood on this handle shrunk up on me a little bit, so the tang extends out past the handle and actually is a bit uncomfortable. So I may end up having to file that down. The sheath is also handmade, usually not by the same maker as your knife. They usually have the apprentices doing sheaths and the sheath accessories, because all your kukris come with accessories. The kukris come with up to 7 different accessories, like a Swiss Army knife, tweezers, and all kinds of different stuff. The typical kukri comes with a karda and a chakmak. And wiggle this out here. They have a nice tight fit. The karda is the knife, and as most of you know from the big debate about how many knives to carry in bushcrafting, when you're carrying a kukri, you're not going to be able to, say, clean a small animal as easily. You could, because they have an excellent convex razor edge, but they give you the small knife for your small tasks. They typically don't come real sharp. You can see how mine is flat right up to there. So it has about that much edge, and that much of it, about half of it, is not an edge. The other tool that typically comes is the chakmak. This looks like a knife. It is totally flat on both sides. It is actually more like a sharpening steel, you could call it. Some people have called it a sharpener on other YouTube videos, and it sort of is, but supposed to be hardened, very hard, so that you can take this and, in my opinion, what it would be best for and good for is flattening out chips and rolls that you may get in the edge. Now, with the kukri, they are differential heat treated, which is a 300 and 400 year old process, which has been handed down through generations of kukri makers in Nepal. And they use a tea kettle with water, and slowly they differentially heat treat the edge and the sweet spot, and leave the back of the knife softer along the spine, and along some of the edge you end up getting a little bit of softening during the buffing process when they get this mirror finish on there. And it's so bright today, you can actually see the scratches through the blade as well, but it is definitely highly polished. and hope these marks will, oh man, I guess the marks aren't going to show up that well. Let's try in the shade. That's a little better. Let's start with the other side. Okay, the other side you have UB for Uncle Bill. If it's a Himalayan Imports is what that stands for. And then the bottom marks, I am not sure. I would love for someone to tell me. But I know the UB up top stands for Uncle Bill. And on the other side, you have the Kami's mark. The Kami is what they call the knife makers. And this one has the mountains on the bottom there, you can see, which means it was made by Rajkumar, Rajkumar. I think he probably gets a chuckle and a giggle that it also looks like, let's say, Dolly Parton. And then I'm pretty sure that's his signature or mark above the mountain boobies. So this part here, I can't remember the name, that's terrible, but there's a lot of debate over what that was for and a lot of cool history and mythology behind it. Some people say, just like in 40-Year-Old Virgin, when the guy says, I can't put the blade back in its sheath until it has spilled blood. That part's hilarious. This thing was supposedly, if you had not spilled blood when you had the blade out, you would prick your finger on it. Mine is not sharp on the end, and then put it in your sheath. Also, they use these in rituals in Nepal, such as beheading goats in one swipe, which you can find videos of that on YouTube. And when the knife is held in the upward position and blood is dripping down it, it all comes to that little tip and that point and just drips off, rather than get all over the handle and get all sticky and slimy. Now, if you order a kukri and you haven't ordered a kukri before, there are a lot of cheap fakes out there from Pakistan and India and even Nepal, and they just are not quality knives. This from Himalayan Imports, and all Himalayan Imports knives, especially the Chiruwa, which gives you the full tang, are basically some of the toughest knives in the world, and they'll advertise on their website as being unbreakable. Yes, you heard me say that, unbreakable. They are warranted as a pry bar, which is one thing that even on the toughest of tough knives, they usually will not warranty. And they are all handmade. You will have hammer marks here and there. You'll have imperfections in the handle, and that's all part of it. It's not a machine-made, shop-made knife. It's a badass chopping machine from the tallest mountains in the world. So there's just tons and tons of history and reading you can go do on these guys. If you have any questions, get at me. But from everything I've studied, the authentic best kukris you will find are at Himalayan Imports, followed also by Kukri House. And I'm sure there are other reputable kukri manufacturers or kukri importers out there. But to my knowledge, those are the two best bets for you. And I would highly recommend Himalayan Imports. They have their own forum and blade forums. Excuse me. And you will not be disappointed. For anywhere from, she has daily specials on there as well, which you guys can check out. Anywhere from, say, I think I've seen them as low as $80 on there, on up to maybe, say, $400 or $500 for some of the badass, really long, really huge ones. Mine, by the way, is a 14.5 inch, and like I said, it's a half-inch thick, guys. It's just a beast. So if anybody has any questions, holler at me, and appreciate you watching. Please sub.